Detective Jack Reeves sat across from the distraught man in the cramped interrogation room. Michael Sullivan's eyes were red and puffy, his shoulders slumped in defeat. "Start from the beginning," Jack said gently. "Tell me what happened." Michael took a shuddering breath. "I thought we were happy. Lydia and I. We had a good marriage, or so I believed. Sure, things got routine after 10 years together. But we had Chloe, our little girl. She was our world." He paused, his gaze distant. "We went on a trip last month, to that resort up in the mountains. A last hurrah before Chloe started kindergarten. But Lydia. She seemed distracted the whole time. Always on her phone, texting. I figured it was work stress." "But it wasn't work, was it?" Jack asked. Michael shook his head grimly. "No. One night after she fell asleep, a message popped up on her phone. It was from Richard goddamn Larson, the principal at Chloe's school. I knew him from PTA meetings and school events. He and Lydia were always friendly, but this..." He clenched his fists. The texts made it clear they were having an affair. Had been for months, right under my nose. All those late work nights, weekend retreats. I felt like such a fool. Jack jotted down notes. "What did you do then?" "I confronted her the next morning, after Chloe was out of earshot. She denied it at first, said they were just friends. But I had proof. Finally she broke down, admitted the whole sordid thing. But she had the nerve to blame me. Said I neglected her, that she felt unappreciated. As if that justified cheating." Michael was shaking now, anger and grief pouring out. "I kicked her out, told her to go stay with her sister. Then I gathered all the evidence I could find. Text messages, phone records, receipts from hotels. I went to see Richard's wife Diane. She was devastated, but not surprised. She'd suspected for a while. We took the evidence to the school board and superintendent. Lydia was an English teacher there too, that's how she and Richard started. They were both fired immediately. The scandal spread through town like wildfire." Jack looked up from his notepad. "And the divorce?" "Ugly and bitter. She tried to take Chloe, but the judge saw through her. I got full custody. Now Lydia sees Chloe every other weekend, but my girl barely recognizes her anymore." Michael wiped away a tear. "You know the worst part? Losing all our mutual friends. People we'd known for years, who came to our wedding, vacation with us. They didn't want to take sides, so they just drifted away. Except for my buddy Dave. He stuck by me through it all, helped me keep perspective." Jack nodded sympathetically. Betrayal had a way of revealing true colors. "So why come to me, Michael? What do you need from a private eye?" Michael leaned forward. "I want you to keep digging. Something doesn't add up about Lydia's story. The principal, really? She threw away our entire life for that schlub? No, I think there's more to this than a simple affair. I need to know the truth, for Chloe's sake if nothing else." The detective closed his notebook decisively. "I'll take the case. Let's find out what really happened." He shook Michael's hand, sealing their pact. As Michael left the office, Jack studied the family photo he'd left behind. The smiling faces of the Sullivans stared back, blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to engulf them. Jack vowed to get answers, no matter where the twisted path led. He owed Michael that much. The game was afoot. Jack Reeves wasted no time diving into the investigation. He started by running background checks on Lydia Sullivan and Richard Larson, looking for any red flags or inconsistencies in their stories. On the surface, they appeared to be model citizens, respected educators, active in their community, no criminal records. But Jack knew that appearances could be deceiving. He tracked down former colleagues, neighbors, anyone who might have insight into their lives. A pattern began to emerge, whispers of inappropriate behavior, rumors that had been brushed under the rug. Jack dug deeper, determined to uncover the truth. Late one night, hunched over his desk amidst a sea of empty coffee cups, Jack stumbled upon a lead. An anonymous email, sent from a burner account, hinting at a larger conspiracy. "Follow the money," it cryptically advised. Intrigued, Jack subpoenaed financial records for the school district. As he pored over the documents, a startling revelation jumped out. Large sums of money, funneled into offshore accounts, all linked back to Richard Larson. Jack sat back in his chair, mind racing. Was the affair merely a smokescreen for something more sinister? Embezzlement, corruption, blackmail? The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but he needed more proof. He decided to confront Richard directly. Staking out the man's house, Jack waited for the right moment. As Richard emerged to retrieve his morning paper, Jack pounced. "We need to talk," he growled, flashing his badge. Richard blanched, but maintained his composure. "I'm not sure what you mean, detective. If this is about the affair, I deeply regret my actions, but it's a private matter between myself, Lydia, and our families." Jack smiled humorlessly. "Oh, I think there's a lot more to it than that. Misappropriated funds, shell companies, hush money. Sound familiar?" Richard's facade crumbled. I can explain. It's not what it looks like." "Save it for the judge," Jack snapped, slapping cuffs on the sputtering man. "You're under arrest." Back at the station, Jack grilled Richard for hours, unraveling the tangled web of deceit. The affair had been real, but it was also a convenient distraction from the financial crimes occurring behind the scenes. Lydia had been an unwitting pawn, manipulated by Richard's schemes. With the truth finally exposed, Jack called Michael Sullivan with an update. The man was shocked by the revelations, but grateful for the closure. He could finally begin to move on with his life, knowing that justice had been served. As for Lydia, the news hit her hard. Realizing the extent of Richard's betrayal, on top of the destruction of her marriage and career, was a crushing blow. But in the aftermath, she slowly began to pick up the pieces. She sought counseling, rebuilt bridges with her daughter, and worked to earn back the trust she had squandered. Jack closed the case file with a sense of grim satisfaction. It had been a twisted journey, full of secrets and lies, but in the end, the truth had prevailed. He knew that the scars left behind would linger, but he had faith that the Sullivans would find their way forward. As he watched the sun set over the city skyline, Jack reflected on the nature of betrayal, how it could poison even the most seemingly idyllic lives. But he also knew that with time and hard work, even the deepest wounds could heal. Michael and Lydia's story was far from over, but a new chapter was about to begin. In the months that followed, life slowly returned to a new normal for the Sullivan family. Michael threw himself into his work and fatherhood, determined to provide stability for Chloe in the wake of the upheaval. He found solace in his weekly poker nights with Dave and other close friends who had stood by him through the ordeal. Lydia, meanwhile, grappled with the fallout of her actions. The revelation of Richard's criminal activities had left her reeling, forced to confront the depths of her own poor judgment. She poured her energy into therapy and community service, seeking to atone for her mistakes. Gradually, she and Michael found a way to co-parent amicably, putting aside their differences for Chloe's sake. They would never be friends, but they could be civil, even collaborative when it came to their daughter's needs. As for Chloe herself, the resilient little girl adapted to the changes with a grace beyond her years. She cherished her time with both parents, even as she navigated the complexities of their fractured relationship. One crisp autumn day, Jack Reeves found himself at a neighborhood park, watching his own son at play. Lost in thought, he almost didn't notice the man approaching him, Michael Sullivan, looking healthier and more at peace than when they'd first met. "Detective Reeves," Michael greeted him warmly, extending a hand. "I never got a chance to properly thank you for everything you did for my family." Jack shook his hand firmly. "I was just doing my job, Mr. Sullivan. But I'm glad to see you're doing well." Michael nodded, his gaze drifting to where Chloe played on the swings. "It hasn't been easy, but we're getting there. One day at a time." He hesitated, then continued. "I wanted you to know. I've started seeing someone. Nothing serious yet, but it feels right. Honest. After everything, I wasn't sure I could trust again. But I'm learning to." Jack clapped him on the shoulder. "That's great to hear. You deserve happiness, both you and Chloe." They parted ways, two fathers enjoying a moment of normalcy in the dappled sunlight. Jack watched Michael go, marveling at the human capacity for resilience and redemption. Across town, Lydia sat in her therapist's office, tissues in hand as she unpacked the latest milestone in her journey. "I received a letter from Richard," she confessed. "From prison. He wanted to apologize, to explain. But I realized, I don't need his explanations anymore. I'm focusing on my own growth, my own future. Her therapist smiled encouragingly. That's a huge step, Lydia. You should be proud of the progress you've made. Lydia took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. She knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, that she still had much to prove, to herself and to others. But for the first time in a long time, she felt a flicker of hope, a sense that a brighter chapter lay ahead. As the leaves turned golden and the year drew to a close, the Sullivans looked to the future with cautious optimism. They had weathered the storm, emerged battered but unbroken. And though the scars would always remain, they had discovered within themselves a strength they never knew they possessed. Life would go on, as it always does. And they would face it together, come what may. If you leave a comment, tell us what you think about the story you heard. It's important to us and will help us find and tell stories that you find interesting. Thank you for watching us.